And welcome in to another episode of Too Many Points on the Tell Me More podcast. I'm your host, Mac Moore. Once again, we have Justin Pemberton coming on. How's it going, Justin?
Mac, it's a beautiful day, man, and I'm just so glad. This is my fifth appearance on this already, so
I'm glad you're counting. I have no idea.
Pretty amazing how time just flies by when we have so much fun doing this. But Mac, I appreciate it once again for having the opportunity to come on.
I appreciate you coming on. There's at no point am I going to figure out the number of times you've been on. I barely know what day of the week it is, but I know enough. It's almost like in the back of my mind, I just have this like sixth sense, like a spidey sense that reminds me. It's like it's podcast time. That means it must be either Tuesday or Thursday, and I can't tell you which one. But hopefully we figure it out pretty quickly as we get going. And we're gonna hit NFL. This is a Thursday, I believe, podcast. Don't quote me on it. So it means we're going to end up doing some NFL bets. We're also going to have just a couple games I want to look at specifically. But once that's done, we'll hit the bets. I don't know if it's our viewers' favorite part of the show, but it's my favorite part of the show. So we're excited for that. Then we'll get to a little bit of college basketball and college football, which normally we talk about on the court stuff. One, I'm still in NFL mode. I'm also, I'm coming off of a high school football season that I'm covering for my day job. And now going into winter sports, like it's a blitz the first couple weeks. I think once that's done, winter season should be a lot easier than fall season for me. But the first few weeks, I got to get everything in place. So right now, I still don't have extra time to watch anything but NFL and whatever show I just have on the background while I'm doing work. But I've seen a little bit of college basketball. I didn't watch this last KU game. I was working when KU had to edge out Creighton. Great game, so I will throw it on and have to rewatch. Make sure I see what's happening. I can't just look at the box score and be like, "Well, I'm glad they won." I got to take a look. But I've been able to watch some KU games. I've been able to watch just a tiny bit of other college basketball. And then college football, I'm not sure I've watched all that much other than I tune in to watch KU get smacked every week because I have to see where they're going. And, pain is just, I don't know. It should be easy to be like, well, that's how I can find time. Don't watch your team be awful for, the 12th straight year or whatever. It's like, I guess timeline's a little off. 10, is it full 10? Like, I'm trying to figure out the exact moment they got rid of Mark Mangino. But
2000 and I want to say
09 was the final year.
09, because they went.
I think Turner Gill was 2010. So it's been the full decade of futility. So I've been watching that, but not a lot of other stuff. The only thing I got to watch was BYU Coastal Carolina. Totally worth it. I was glad I hyped up that game the last week because it was probably the best game of the college football season. But in terms of on the field, not going to talk about it. There is just growing topics in terms of COVID things coming up that, it's important. And now Coach K for college basketball, we got him saying probably shouldn't be playing during a pandemic, which normally I would nod along with, except it comes after he gets spanked by Illinois. So
of course,
my eyebrow is up. I'm not saying Coach K is wrong. I'm saying there might be ulterior.
No. He's wrong. He's wrong. He needs to shut up.
I think the sentiment, the actual statement can be fine. I just don't want to hear it from Coach K.
I don't either.
That's where I'm at. I'm not saying what he's saying is probably right. He's not saying it for the right reasons. But we can argue that later. Right now, let's get into NFL. Let's start. And first one up, we got Thursday Night Football. We're going to have Rams, Patriots. This is one that, I think a few weeks ago, it was probably going to not be a game people thought mattered. It looked like maybe the Patriots are tanking. Maybe, at some point, people were questioning Bill Belichick's cred. I don't know how much was that. Just seemed like a fun narrative. I don't think there were too many people who truly believe that, more so than as Tom Brady was starting to, throw it down the field and make some big plays with the Bucs. Felt like a good time to just, kick Belichick while he's at his lowest. And this is the only time we've ever seen him low while coaching the Patriots. So I understand people getting their licks in. I also thought, if anybody truly believed that, they were being ridiculous. I also didn't imagine the Patriots would be able, with the roster they have, with how many players they had lost on the defensive side and with how much, Cam Newton looked good for a game, but then it kind of disappeared. Would they be able to put together anything that resembled a playoff run? I thought even when they started winning as Cam Newton, they started to get a run game going that is not, high powered, but is gritty and is getting the job done enough times. I thought they'd win some games. I didn't think they'd be able to get themselves even close to a playoff race with such a stacked AFC, even with that extra team this year. Just didn't look like the Patriots have a chance. But if things fall their way, they've got themselves in position. Now they just have to beat a Rams team that keeps on winning, keeps winning big games. I think of all the teams, I'm not sure if you just put Sean McVay into prime time because he's got that pretty face, or what's the reason? But Rams seem to, have a lot of games this year that are against good teams that matter. And looks like, we got even Marco jumping in. That's fantastic.
Hey, I told
good time, man.
Totally. I was like, 12 o'clock rolled around. I was like, get a Facebook notification. Oh, that's right.
I'll start sending like early reminders, but it's hard because I invite so many people as like an open invitation that if I just send everybody like, hey, we're doing podcasts these 2 days this week, right before the podcast. Hey, just a reminder, this is going to start. Hey, here's a link. Like at some point, people will just hate me and I'll hate myself. So I try to just keep it as simple as possible. And if people forget and find better things to do, I don't hold it against them because I know we're all busy and I'm the only crazy person who's just like, I'm just randomly going to do a podcast at noon. If people show up, fine, we'll see. But before Marco jumped on there and we got him in, I was just finishing up talking about the Rams Patriots, and we're going to kick it to Justin to see how he views this game. But I think right now Rams seem like they still need to win this game, even as good as the Patriots are playing. When you look at the trajectory of the Rams, this is still a team that you need to beat. This is on that, like you make those lists of games that are acceptable to lose. I don't think anybody will write off the Rams for losing this, but this is how you turn the corner. This is how you say, we're not just a team that's found easy victories against the NFC least. We are a good football team. We're a contender, and you beat the Patriots like you're supposed to. It's not a huge win. You're not getting penciled into an NFC championship game because you win it. You also really need to win this game to show that, hey, that is the path we're on. Justin, when you're looking at this, what do you think is the most compelling part of these two facing off?
Well, this is actually more of a you're right about the Rams side of things, but I think this is a much bigger needed win for the Patriots because it's such a logjam right now in the AFC. The AFC is so strong. You got so many teams that are like 9-3 or 8-4, right in that area. And the Patriots, as much as their roster is so depleted, they don't have any playmakers at receiver, and of course Cam Newton's been very bad in the passing game for the most part this year. I looked at some of the stats overall. 5 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. That's kind of gross. And this is a must-win for Belichick and the Patriots. And unfortunately, I don't see it happening. I think the Rams are just too powerful. The running game is, of course, their strength. I know they've gotten better, of course, this year with the passing game. Goff's had a bounce-back kind of year. The Rams defense is actually the strength of the team. Best secondary in all of football. You've got probably the best D-line in the National Football League. Well, maybe that probably goes to Pittsburgh, but you got the best D lineman in all of football in Aaron Donald. So I think with that being said, Rams win this game convincingly, but this is a must win for New England. Not so much for the Rams, even though they win this game, it puts their position at a higher level to possibly gain maybe the number 3 or number 2 seed in the NFC playoff picture. But I'm gonna stick with the Patriots being the bigger story, it being a must win for them.
All right, so before I kick it to Marco, I want to know, Justin, when you say it's like more important, like obviously to make the playoffs it is, but I would make the argument that the Patriots are playing on house money right now. Like once you've lost Tom Brady, your defense, all these players have opted out because of COVID, and you have the way the year started, maybe because of how well Cam played the first 2 weeks. like having a losing season. But I feel like the way they were written off, the fact that they've even gotten themselves into the mix, I think at most you lose this. If you lose this and you don't make it to the playoffs, there's going to be some hindsight of people, looking at the fact that, oh, you really didn't have a chance to make the playoffs, but you also got yourselves out of position to, try to get a top draft pick. But I think, that's something for us to all talk about. It's fun. That's nothing for a coach to think about or a franchise to think about. You try to win as many games as you can. The only time you should ever have that thought is if you're the Jets. Like, don't stupidly win a game because you're going to lose out on top pick. But if you're the Patriots and you can win games, the idea that you need to figure it out and be middle of the pack is a bad thing. I don't see it that way. Like, I think at this point the Patriots could have had a really bad season. Maybe it puts them first time Bill Belichick gets to play with a top 5 pick, top 8 pick, something like that. I think the idea that he played himself out of that and got them to the point where they could compete for the playoffs. Anything from here is house money. They need this if they really think they can make the playoffs, but I don't think the pressure is on them. If we're picking which team has the pressure on them, I think it's the Rams. I think it's Jared Goff. I think it's Sean McVay. I think they're the ones who are going to go up, and especially Sean McVay, who every time he faces a really good coach like Kyle Shanahan, he looks like a second-tier coach in comparison, and he knows that narrative. That it's not just us talking about it. Sean McVay is perfectly aware of it, and he wants to come in and get a solid win over a Patriots team that beat him in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. Marco, when you're looking at this, how much, I just want you to pick right now. Who's right, me or Justin, on which one is more important? Which one is who's got the pressure on him?
I was listening to Justin at first, and he was making some really good points, but I think that you are the right one in this one. Mostly because when it comes to playoff implications, both teams are finishing off the season against their division opponents, and it's, so like the Patriots are going up against Dolphins and Bills. I think those are 2 games that I just don't see them winning, and if they can't win those 2 games, well, they're a 7 or 8 win team at best, and I don't think that gets you into the playoffs on the AFC side.
You don't think the Patriots beat Dolphins, whether it's Fitzpatrick and you're getting back at him for what he did last year, or whether it's Tua, you get a rookie and Bill Belichick just eats those rookie QBs up? You don't think they get I agree with you on the Bills, but it's
going to be in Miami though. It's going to be at Miami. They never do well at Miami.
Yes, because every game these are home games this year. You're right. Like, we've been watching a normal product of NFL during this COVID season.
I'm just saying.
Justin's right. That's where the Patriots have lost those bigger games than Miami. Those important playoff
games have the Patriots lost in front of what is either no crowd or a tiny crowd? How many times? How many times has this happened?
6
on the road. Like
they're 500. I don't know.
But in Miami, 0, buddy. 0 is the answer.
But even with Brady, they still had troubles against the Dolphins. Even 2004 on a Monday night when the Dolphins were 4-12.
Brady is scared of the crowd down there. I think you get Cam Newton in front of an empty stadium. I think it's fine.
I think it's the heat. It always gets to them. And of course,
do they have these problems against other hot locales?
Of course, the Chiefs are no better. I mean, their history against the Dolphins in Miami is really bad. But that's another story for a different day.
Also, didn't the Patriots, their games against, I'm trying to think whether it was, colder for, the Giants Super Bowls. I'm trying to think, how often they go into Super Bowls. They've won enough of them, and usually the Super Bowl is in a warm environment despite playing in the cold for, 2 months. I think all this is just circumstantial nonsense. At most, I'll take that Miami is a division rival, so obviously you're going to get the best.
Right. Yeah.
But the idea, it's because of the heat. It's because it's none of that. At most, it's because you have to face them twice a year, and you're going to get the best shot from them. So every now and again, they'll get wins. But is his record even that bad against Miami? He's probably 50%, even on the road.
Probably not, but I don't know. There's just some things you just can't explain in the NFL. Things just happen.
Is this a better Miami team than what we've seen the last 2 years? That's another thing. I think it is. Yes. I think it is.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
no question about it.
I think there is a big difference between having, a win like what Miami did last year, where it was random. It was fluky. And then there's having these teams going up fighting, and Dolphins aren't, giving Patriots everything they got because no other weeks matter. Like, both teams have pressure on them, or in this case, I would argue Patriots have the least pressure they've ever experienced, and the Dolphins will have the most they've had in like 5 years at least. I don't know when the last time the Dolphins have had real pressure. They've never been in a situation to make the playoffs. So I don't know. For me, I would say that, I'm not saying that Bill Belichick will 100% get a victory going down to Miami, but right now they're doing whatever they want to do because I think this is the least pressure. And I think depending on who the quarterback is, and I hate to say this because I was the exact opposite 3 weeks ago, I think Miami probably has a better shot with Fitzpatrick than they do with Tua. I think I don't agree with pulling and, going back and forth. I would go Tua the whole way and, minus that. I think the first week they pulled him made sense just from a health standpoint, protection. Like he was just getting killed so much you couldn't leave him out there. But I think in terms of like trying to figure out who's your best shot, I'd rather take, even if today Fitzpatrick is the better option, it better be by a mile for you to pick him. It makes more sense to get the experience with Tua, try to get him going. And the only game that it makes sense to have Fitzpatrick is going up against Bill Belichick, who just eats rookie QBs alive.
Right. And let's not forget last year what happened. They go up to Foxborough, and of course they help the Chiefs get a number 2 first round bye. So there you go.
Hey, things can happen. So we're not going to go, I'm not going to put money to say that the Patriots win. This is the off year for me betting on the Patriots. It just does not make sense. But I'm leaning towards that's probably the best option. We'll see what happens when we actually do our bets here in a bit. I said I was going to end up looking at future games and figure out what later in the week we would talk about. I did not do that. I am an awful host. So I have no idea what the rest of the slate looks like. We obviously have a Chiefs game that, I don't know, man. Like, I know all, all week or the last few weeks, I think the Marco has been the number one person bringing up that the Dolphins should be able to be a tough test for the Chiefs. Even at 8-4, even if, what all the stuff we were just talking about, I think when you have that QB back and forth, I'm not sure if that's a game that I'm like looking at and thinking for sure the Dolphins can just, give the Chiefs any problems. If the Chiefs play like they did against the Broncos, maybe. Yeah. If the Chiefs play what we've seen most games this year, I don't think this is a game. I think -7. We'll get to the bets later. But, I see this being a game the Chiefs should win by 2 touchdowns, even just to prove that last week's game was a fluke. Yeah. Marco, are you still holding that this Dolphins game will be a true tough test for the Chiefs this week?
If anything, no. I'll say no first because if anything, if it's tough and it's just then the Chiefs are putting that on themselves. Because probably a few weeks back, I did think Miami was a better, looking like a tougher challenge with Tua at the quarterback position. But we've seen now that he is a rookie, he is vulnerable, and he's going to make mistakes. And that's something that Steve Spagnuolo, I'm sure, has all week has been looking at in film is what blitz packages, what disguises can I make to really shake up this quarterback. And that's fine. I wasn't worried about Miami's offense. I was more worried about their defense in this situation, basically with the cornerback play, and then the Chiefs' offense, like you said, what we've seen against Denver, not being able to execute in the red zone, because that's just one of those things where they got a great special teams kicker down there. This could be one of those games where Butker could miss maybe a crucial field goal and not a PAT per se, because that's what the Chiefs have been relying on. I feel like I shouldn't say rely on, but that was kind of the offense. That was the offense last week against Denver. So Chiefs that's just the biggest concern is they got to find a way to get in the red zone. I don't know personally what Miami's red zone defense stats look like, but I can tell you right now that's just going to be the key. And I that sounds so bland and everything is the key is to get touchdowns in this game. But yeah, even just 10 out of the 5 tries, even just 20%, 40%, I feel like would still, if you got a touchdown, 2 out of the 5 times you were down there, I think that's still better than what they did this past week.
well, past like 7 weeks or whatever.
Yeah, there you go.
3 weeks,
Yeah.
I guess,
Season.
for like 9 drives, whatever it was. I think obviously it'd be good for the red zone offense of the Chiefs to be better. I also think that it wouldn't be surprising if the Chiefs win this game like 35 to like 14, and all of the touchdowns are from 40 yards out. So, I mean, as good as it would be to see them do great in the red zone, it's also possible that they could just blow a team away without even needing that at all. But if they do get there, if they are in those situations, we were talking about pressure with these last couple teams. There's pressure on the Chiefs to do better in the red zone. And I think it's weird because most of the time, Patrick Mahomes out there, like I've said this a lot as a Chiefs fan, I feel like the pressure has gone from us. Like, I don't know how much it's there for certain players, certain groups, but I know it feels like for me as a fan and what it seems like for Patrick Mahomes, there almost is no pressure now. Like and I don't mean like actual blitzing pressure. I mean, like you just trust him to, by the end of 4 quarters, get the job done. At least so often that you're not concerned, even in, we've seen him win the biggest games for the Chiefs, or the team's basically in dire straits, or what would be, you'd basically zone out if Alex Smith was the quarterback back there. And I was an Alex Smith fan, but you're down a couple touchdowns. You're just like, well, guess we got to wait till next week. Patrick Mahomes, they could be down like 24 in the 4th quarter. I'd still be like, I don't know. He might make it back. I think that pressure for him is gone. But if there's any pressure, if there's any time you're going to see him kind of tighten up, it's got to be those red zone opportunities, because now it is become a thing. And they got one last week, but they still didn't do well. Like, now it's okay. We need to fix this, and that doesn't mean that you just have to always be successful. Because, like I said, this is an offense that they don't need those red zone touchdowns as much as other teams, because they're getting touchdowns from anywhere on the field. You still need to be better than you've been, and hopefully, you can get that started this week if you even find yourselves in those situations. Justin, is that the number one thing that you're going to be watching this week? And if it is, what's the next thing? What's the next thing that you think you're going to be watching for to see the Chiefs do? Because at this point, it's partially about getting that first seed. It's also about figuring out what are the kinks to work out right before you get into playoff action.
So, yes, that is the first thing I'll be watching. I mean, you guys you've said it so well about the red zone offense need to really improve. I mean, 1 for your last 8 in your red zone attempts, that's horrible, and that's got to improve. But hey, the Dolphins are number 2 in scoring defense behind Pittsburgh, so that's going to be a challenge right there. And Marco, you were just talking how you didn't really know the stats for the Dolphins defense in the red zone. I don't know red zone. As far as red zone defense for the Dolphins, rankings wise, but I do know that they're number 2 in scoring defense behind Pittsburgh. So that's going to possibly present more. Well, I mean, maybe
Holmes likes to throw it in the tight windows. You're right. Yeah,
well, he does. But I was just going to say that this could possibly present some more troubles in the red zone for the Chiefs. But Mac, you said the other thing that you want, you're asking me to watch for in this game, and this is defensively for the Chiefs. Can the Chiefs get a pass rush for once? Can we finally see Frank Clark finally come out of his hiding cave, and can we maybe see Chris Jones get a sack? Now, he's been getting a lot of pressures, not sacks, but can we finally see this defense generate some sacks? Because other than sacking old man Brady one time a couple weeks ago down in Tampa, when was the last one we saw the Chiefs get a sack? I mean, I can't recall. I mean, I'm gonna be sarcastic, maybe since the days of Derek Thomas, but I'm just joking.
Come on, man, that's rude.
Hey, I said I'm joking. I did say I really
like 4 guys. Jared out. They've had 3 Hall of Famers in that
Jared
time.
Jared Allen, Tom Hawley, Derek John. No, I know.
Hella rude.
and Neil Smith. I know. No,
I won't count that one. That's a Broncos.
He was mainly a Chief.
Doesn't count.
Can't blame him from going. Well, sort. I'm
not blaming him. I'm just saying, like, we don't need to list him. That's all I'm saying.
Anyway, no, the pass rush is my next biggest concern. I do want to see the secondary maybe a little bit, maybe tighten some things up a little bit more. But I'm gonna stick with the pass rush. Can they finally generate some pressure against either the rookie Tua, which is my bet that he'll be starting over Fitzpatrick, or maybe we'll see old man Fitzpatrick under center. But I want to finally see the Chiefs get after somebody, because it's been too long watching this defense generate no pressure, and the secondary can only hold up for so long when the pass rush is not getting after it. So let's see the Chiefs hopefully maybe improve on that this week down in Miami.
Yeah, that's fair. I will say the one thing when we're talking about like Dolphins scoring defense, part of that, and it's not, this is once again not to say they're not a really good defense. When you got 2 games against the Jets where they scored 0 and like 3 or whatever the hell it was, that's a little unfair to talk about them being the best scoring defense.
Right.
And that, it's more like it's about matchups, comparing offenses, and I would say this is a little bit rude to Patrick Mahomes, but you could compare, the challenge of facing the Chiefs to the challenge of facing, I don't know, the Buffalo Bills, particularly with the way Josh Allen has played this year. Josh Allen is what's a grade below light? So I was going to say Patrick Mahomes light, but it's like Patrick Mahomes, great value, light, half off after Christmas sale. That's what Josh Allen is. It's good. At this point, I think he's a top 4 MVP candidate, but you still have to have a lot of qualifiers to compare him to Patrick Mahomes. He threw 4 touchdowns, 300 yards against them, week 2.
He was 32 of 40 for 375 and 4 touchdowns. And I was going to point this out the other day on the Tuesday show, Mac. He became the first Bills quarterback ever to have a completion percentage over 80, or not over, but at 80%. Not Jim Kelly, not Captain America Doug Flutie, and not Jack Kemp, going back to the olden days when he played for the Buffalo Bills. We're talking Josh Allen, your boy in your fantasy league, Mac.
I still need 8 qualifiers that diminish the praise I give to him, because it's like, that's how, once again, not to be mean to Josh Allen, just to let people know how good Patrick Mahomes is. I think when you look at that comparison, you look at what can be done, it's not like they're these, a world-beating defense. They just happen to have some good stats because they have played well this year, and they've had a schedule that's kind of led them to kind of move up to that level in terms of the scoring. But good offenses have still had a good time. Even the Cardinals, who have kind of fallen off, that game ended it was 34-31. So when you know that you can score, you know that Patrick Mahomes is capable of it, because he's Patrick Mahomes. Now you just need to have a defense that can slow him down. And like I said, this Chiefs defense has had a lot of holes, but generally it's the rushing attack. That's not really where Dolphins' strength is, because they don't even know who their running back is any given week. I don't expect Matt Breida, if he plays, to do too much to him. I don't expect anybody back there. I think it's a passing game. The Chiefs are capable of slowing down a passing game that's not elite, and is you don't even know which quarterback you're getting. I feel comfortable. Could it be a Raiders situation? Maybe, but for now, I'll just hope that the Chiefs defense can keep them in check. Next up, there are not a lot of games this week that matter, so this is good that I only wanted to hit a couple before we jump into the betting segment. This is just be a one-off. We don't want to talk too long about this. Is the Colts Raiders, Colts 8-4, Raiders 7-5? Is this the worst game with a team of that record? Has there ever been 2 teams that you felt more like frauds when they're this far into the season with that good of a record and they're facing off? And the winner, Colts, could be 9-4. The Raiders could be 8-5. By the end of this game, I still don't think either have a shot to do anything in the playoffs.
No, absolutely not. I agree. Let's see what only 3-point favorite the Colts are against the Raiders. I kind of maybe take the Raiders this one, maybe, but I don't know. The Colts defense has been pretty good this year. I know they've been kind of letting it down a little bit here recently, but I don't know. The Raiders, I think they are, as I've talked about a few times already, I think they're on that tailspin like they were last year after they got blown out by Kansas City. Of course, they got blown by the Falcons a couple weeks ago, so I think they're in that tailspin. Give me the Colts, but if the Raiders win it, I won't be surprised.
Well, yeah, they're both frauds.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the big thing for me is at this point, I probably agree with the Raiders. Like until if they win this game, then I can withhold judgment. Until then, I'm ready to just throw them out. And the Colts, at least, I feel like that's a team that is just not built to beat really great teams. Mm-hmm. But if you're facing a Raiders team that's already not doing well, can only beat the Jets by 3 with a all-out blitz on a Hail Mary play at the end of the game.
Thank you, Greg Williams.
I'm willing to assume that the Colts can handle them, even on the road. Because once again, I don't care about road and home games this year. I don't think they matter at this point. There's some benefit, just not like it normally is, and even normally, they're not as powerful as people once thought they were. I think right now I would go Colts. I also don't think that the win will really matter. I think it's going to make sure they make the playoffs, make sure that they win the division, and not mean a damn thing. So next up, I lost my page of where I was. There's only 2 at the end of the week, I think. Yeah, there's nothing else that matters on here. There's Steelers, Bills as the Sunday night game. You get Ravens, Browns as crazy. Browns 9-3, Ravens 7-5. Who would have thunk it? This guy. I picked him 6 weeks ago. Let's start with Steelers, Bills. Obviously, this is a tough one for the Steelers because you get that heartbreaking loss, losing to Alex Smith. Your undefeated season is over. Now you have to turn it around, and you would hope for a game where it's easier to get back into the swing of winning. They're going to have to face a Bills team that Josh Allen, red hot. They have to go up to Buffalo, and it's only a Buffalo minus 2.5, which is close. It's on the road. The fact that it's even that low when you have a Steelers team that is 11-1 tells you all you need to know about this game. The Steelers, you could give them credit for having ugly games that they found a way to win. Well, finally, they had an ugly game. They had a bloody Alex Smith that they couldn't find a way to win. So now that whole thing, that invulnerability is gone. And now they're going to have to face a team that is on the upswing. This is the type of team that, with the way the AFC is, it doesn't matter you get a bye week. Your first week back, you're facing a team that's of the Bills' caliber because everybody is going to be a team that is right now the worst team that is slotted to be in the playoffs is 8-4. There are just a bunch of teams. The AFC is stacked, and the Steelers have to be ready to beat a team like the Bills. Marco, we'll start with you. Do you think they're capable of doing it? You think they will get themselves back into the driver's seat and keep themselves, because they could easily one moment be undefeated, 2 weeks later, Chiefs are projected to be the number 1 seed and the only one with the bye week.
I feel like that the Steelers were born for being in this position because I always felt like that they were always that second or third team behind the Pats and the Colts, through those years. And that's who Ben Roethlisberger is. It's like the Steelers have been that team for the last 20 years of football. I think they do have capable abilities of coming in and winning this ball game. Yes, the Bills are red hot, but I still think that they'll give them a good matchup. But at the end of the day, maybe this is one of those games where it comes down to experience and coaching. And I believe that Mike Tomlin is one of the best coaches in the NFL. And I think that he's capable of bringing this team back after a loss. And I think I heard Justin say it while you were talking Thaddeus Gilmore in the comments over here. Yeah. He says the pressure is off. Yeah, it depends. Is that pressure of an undefeated season off for the Steelers, or is that pressure of getting that number 1 seed? It depends on how important that is to them. The Steelers have everything that they need to beat this Bills team because they have such a good defense. I think the Steelers come into this one, they win. Next game against the Bengals, I know this isn't a team that's looking forward to next week, and I think this is a team that knows its role is we have to take it game by game now because we're no longer we still decide our fate, but we're no longer in that driver's seat where we have that game above the 2nd seed. But the Bills also have that hunger also on the other side. But yeah, I think the Steelers win it.
Yeah, that's a good point. In the pressure, I think there's something there to not having the pressure of being undefeated. Although I didn't seem like the Steelers felt that. Like it seemed, and once again, that I didn't watch enough of the games to say that I was seeing from moment to moment whether it was just bad play, little mistakes, whatever that kept them in so many close games, no matter who the opponent was. But it felt like for the most part they weren't feeling that yet. And usually you don't feel undefeated pressure until you start getting into 13, 14, 15, things like that. I think when you're at something like 11, maybe depending on the team, but when you have Mike Tomlin in charge, when you got Big Ben back there who apparently doesn't care one way or the other, like he doesn't feel bad when he's throwing like 4 interceptions. I can't be convinced that they felt any pressure from the undefeated, but there is that pressure to stay in front of the Chiefs. So it wasn't about undefeated. It was that number 1, which this year, I mean, that's all that matters. And it is the only thing that's a true benefit. Like we mentioned, not only is the AFC stacked, so the Chiefs are going to have a extremely tough matchup, no matter how the rest of the season shakes out. Like if you're number 2 and you're facing, the bottom seed, that bottom seed is still really, really good, which I wouldn't have imagined going into a season when you added a team to the playoffs. When you look at, the NFC side, they're not as stacked as the AFC, but it's still whoever gets that number 1. That's the only real benefit, because when you look at the stats of like who makes the playoffs, there's a couple of outliers that are wild card teams that ran the table, they make it and win the Super Bowl, and every other team you got a bye week. Like that is the number 1 thing, because football, we talk about this, how many upsets there are. That's because football is built for upsets. The ability to rattle off 2-3 wins, every time you add an extra game onto that you need a win in a row, you're more likely to not make it. And that's true for even the Patriots that were able to win so many Super Bowls. One of the reasons they were able to do that is because every year they got themselves in position. You only need to win those 2 games and you're right there and you can win a Super Bowl. Like every other team didn't get themselves in that position as consistently as they did and didn't get as many opportunities to have that quick trek to a Super Bowl title. And you need it. And now this year, with it only being 1 on each side, that's a huge advantage. Where every year before this, you're having 2 in each conference that has a big advantage. One of those 2 teams can make it. Now we're seeing what it looks like when you have half the good teams knock each other out the first week, and there's 1 team that gets to play King of the Mountain watching this play out. I think it's a huge advantage that, imagine what it'll be like being that 3rd week where you're in the championship game. You're facing a team that normally you might be facing. It might be 1 versus 2. That doesn't happen very often. But when it does, you're facing another team that got that bye week. They could be fresher. Now you're facing maybe you get the raw end of the deal and you get the hottest team that found a way to rattle off wins and make it to the championship. You're also for sure getting a team that had to battle 2 weeks before this in the playoffs. Like that is a huge advantage when you do make it to the championship game after getting the bye week. So definitely pressure to make that. Justin, when you're looking at that, how much do you feel like that's the impact? That's the most important part, is can you get that bye week? And, as a Chiefs fan watching, how concerned are you that the Chiefs are still, right there? They're neck and neck now, but it's going to be tough to pull that away from the Steelers.
Oh, there is no question it's going to be really tough for the Chiefs to, pull this out, to take over as the top seed in the AFC over Pittsburgh. But I'll tell you, after watching the Steelers against Washington, seeing all the drop passes, including the last game too, when they played Baltimore, there's been a lot of drop passes, a lot of sloppy play from Pittsburgh. And a team like Buffalo, where they have a head coach that preaches on doing the small things right, and Sean McDermott, they can take advantage of those miscues from Pittsburgh, and this is going to be a tough game for the Steelers to win. And Marco, I agree with you that Pittsburgh's got the ability to go into Buffalo and win this tough football game, but I don't know. I'm kind of looking at, and I'm not just being biased, because I want the Chiefs to get the top seed. I mean, that is part of it. It's part of it, but I don't know. I like Buffalo a lot better right now than Pittsburgh. Give me the Bills, because they're not shooting themselves in the foot like what Pittsburgh's doing. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to add in. This is kind of like the first one of the storylines for Buffalo is home playoffs. This is kind of like their first playoff game at home in how many years? So long, since the 90s or something like that.
90.
Because That's one of the big things that Bills fans have been talking about. Is that
I want to say probably since their last trip to the Super Bowl, probably.
Right, and that's there you go. So yeah, the Bills have a lot of headlines right on this game as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just as of right now, just give me Buffalo. I think that they're a much better team. But you know what, Mike Tomlin, I mean, he's a great coach for a reason, and I'm not saying Pittsburgh can pull it out. They can. I think right now the better coach team that's not making the miscues is Buffalo. And until you see the tight end for is it Ebron for the Steelers not having the yips of dropping the football, and Juju Smith-Schuster not dropping the ball, maybe Big Ben making better throws. I don't know. I just give me. Oh, and another thing, Pittsburgh can't run the ball. They can't run the ball, and I think Buffalo is doing a better job at that too. So that's another advantage for Buffalo. So right now, it's all Buffalo for me.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going if you didn't see their record, if you just saw what's been done over the last 4 weeks and you just watch them play, I think there wouldn't be too many people that would pick what the Steelers have put onto the field over what Buffalo has. But you can't take that away. You have a team that has been resilient all year. They've put together this where just that one, blemish on their record. So I do want to see. I want to see what happens when the Steelers have to go there. They have to rebound. This is the first time they've been put in that situation. And maybe it does change. Similar to how I talked about Patrick Mahomes earlier in the year, felt kind of bored. And each time he had a quote unquote a bad game, which for a lot of quarterbacks would still be a pretty good game, he bounced back and just lit the other team on fire because he had to prove a point. Do the Steelers do that after they have their first loss? And do they look a lot better than they've looked over the last few weeks when they're just trying to hold on and keep those victories coming, but, don't want to give too much away. So we'll see what they can do. But, we got in the comments, we got Teresa Falcon, Diggs playmaker. The Buffalo has so many guys, and I keep giving all the praise to Josh Allen, but the big jump isn't just Josh Allen getting better. That is what can happen. This is why when people look too much at completion stats, they're like, well, why was this guy not good? Why is he throwing 59%? Why is it? Well, when you get somebody like Stephon Diggs, that percentage is going to jump up. Now, it doesn't jump up like Josh Allen done because this is an unprecedented jump from one year to the next for a quarterback who's in his third year. Usually it's year 1 to year 2. The fact Josh Allen's doing it, we haven't seen somebody else do it. But it took getting those guys. Buffalo has so much talent, so it should be fun. In terms of Thaddeus telling me that Pittsburgh's good at playing without a bye week, they win every first round of the playoffs, whether in the wild card or in their division round. They're good with the bye. They're good without. The idea that they're better without is ridiculous. Thaddeus, stop it.
Yeah,
Come on,
man. That 1 year when Pittsburgh won it all, I think it was 2005. They went on the road for all 3 playoff games.
Yeah, they went. That was the run. Of course, the year they won again, they had a bye week, and you go look through. I think this last year might be the first Pittsburgh first round loss. Yeah, or not this last year, but 2017, last time they were in the playoffs. They lost in the first round, but every year before that, you can go back 20 years. They don't lose the first playoff game.
No,
they win.
They win.
So, the idea of it being better without a bye, no, but remember that no matter which one they get stuck with, Pittsburgh, when they bring a good team onto the field, they tend to get that victory. They tend to at least go somewhere in the playoffs. They tend to make it to conference championship games. So should be interesting to see what happens with this group. The other game being the Browns and the Ravens. I do feel like I've loved how we've talked today, but I was planning to start bets 20 minutes in, and now we're 40 minutes in. So this is going to be a tough one to wrap up and figure out. But I do still want to hit Ravens and Browns. And so instead of me saying what I've already been saying every week about the Browns, that even if the numbers don't say they're better than these other guys, I like that they know what they're about. They're really good at what they do. And, man, Baker Mayfield, he even keeps looking half as good as he did this last week. That Browns team is going to be scary come playoff time. So we'll just go around the table looking at it. Obviously, I think we've all already agreed Ravens are in trouble right now because now they're on the outside looking in. They have 2 teams in their division that are ahead of them. Do you think that the Ravens will be able to get themselves back on track? Thaddeus, once again, they're beating playoff teams right now, Thaddeus. I don't care how bad they've been throughout their franchise. Come on, man. Marco. Do you think this is the week that Thaddeus will be right? Ravens will show that the Browns are boo-boo?
Yes, because every time the Browns have been put in a situation where they can succeed, they shoot themselves in the foot. And like this is the Browns. All you gotta do is just go out and win. The idea like now it's just, which again, it's like telling the team that all you gotta do is just score touchdowns. But yeah, they're in a situation now where they can get into the playoffs, but you also got the last 4 games of the regular season, and those games matter, and numbers matter, and wins are mattering a lot more in the AFC playoffs right now with how tight that race is. So Browns, are you gonna be great? Are you gonna keep winning and get that wild card game, or are you gonna let a team that, like we said, was on the outside looking in, but the only thing is that they got the MVP on their team. And thank God they finally had him throw downfield this last game. It's like they forgot who their quarterback was for 6 weeks. But yeah, I think the Ravens come in and they shut down the Browns party. And I think Cleveland shoots them stuff, like, do what they usually do, and they don't live up to the hype. They don't do it.
All right. Well, we got 2 different people commenting, staying engaged with this live podcast. We got Thaddeus, who's just straight up shit posting at this point, and then we got Falcon, who's bringing in good analysis. He says,
yes,
Brownie's defense can shut Ravens down. Put money on it. I agree with him. I think when you look at the way the Ravens have played, even with the bounce back that they just had, and you're getting, okay, finally Marquise Brown gets some points, after I give up on him in fantasy. This is a good time. Thanks, Ravens. But I think even with the way they played, this Browns defense, they're middle of the pack in terms of season long where they're ranked. But in terms of how they played in the second half of the season, that defense keeps being able to not always shut down good offenses, but be able to make key stops. And obviously, it's tough when if the Browns are rolling on offense and then you're trying to catch up with them, you're trying to get back into the game, they're not going to give you that many possessions because that running game is going to run down the clock. We saw that in the second half of the Titans game. And then the defense, you might be able to get some touchdowns. Titans got some touchdowns, but eventually, Myles Garrett is going to bring it home. He's going to destroy your quarterback. That pressure is going to mount over the course of a game. And I think when we see that pressure and the way it's affected Lamar Jackson this year, unless it really was just a turning point this last week, if Ravens play anything like they had been playing the weeks before that, I think this Browns defense can shut them down enough. And the Browns offense is rolling. It'll be a tough test against the Ravens, though. Justin, do you agree with Marco? Do you think this is going to be a game that the Ravens get it back on track, and the Browns, we know who they are? That's who they're going to be this week. They're going to be the Browns we know.
Well, first of all, about that matchup with Myles Garrett and the left tackle for the Ravens, I believe that's where the big injury of Stanley occurred. And I think he's the left tackle. So that matchup is going to be really interesting to see how the current left tackle for the Ravens holds up against Myles Garrett. And I don't think he'll be able to hold up very well against one of the best pass rushers in the league. It's possible. It's possible just because it's the Browns and we know their history and what they do best a lot of times, and it's choke in certain situations. But you know what? The fact the Ravens didn't really have a game last week because it's the Cowboys. Let's see them get back to playing a real team this week against the Browns. I'm not gonna count anything for last week because Dallas is so terrible. So Lamar Jackson still needs to prove that he is really a much better quarterback than what others are saying. And of course, I know I've been a critic of him all year long, and but I don't know. I mean, this is a huge game for Cleveland. I think more pressure is probably on the Browns just because this is their biggest game in quite some time. The fact you can put away the Ravens and in their season basically and stamp your ticket to the playoffs for the first time since 2002 and only for the second time since 94. I don't know. I mean, give me Cleveland in this one, but barely. This is
Ravens get the points. Ravens covered.
Yeah,
I think Ravens will cover it, but I think Cleveland will edge them out. It's going to be a good game, but I won't be surprised if Baltimore wins it because Cleveland. It will just prove that the pressure was just too much for Cleveland to try to close them out and in their chances for the playoffs. So, But for right now, I'll give you the Browns.
All right. Sounded like you were riding the fence, but I'm glad you picked one. And we'll see if as you get the points thrown in front of you.
Hey man, these games are tough they're tough to figure out sometimes. You just never know.
We will jump into that right now.
The Browns are doo-doo, like Daddy said. They're doo-doo.
So we're gonna
you keep thinking that, man. We'll see.
We're gonna have you locked in. That sounded a lot like the Flail-O-Fish bet of the week. Now that Marco just won't let it go, we'll get around to that. We're gonna jump into bets. We are doing max fast action bets. We do want to keep this short and sweet. We had a thorough analysis on 4 games, and we ran out of time to even have any sort of in-depth discussion on the rest of these. So if your answer starts lasting too long, I do not have buzzards. This isn't like Wheel of Fortune or something. Like, all I got is cutting you off and pointing to the next game. So be aware that might happen as we get going. First one, start with Thursday night, start with tonight's game. We got Patriots, we got Rams. The Rams are home. They are -6.5. Marco, who do you got?
Patriots.
Ooh.
Right. Justin?
Rams.
That's fair. I think with the points, I like what the Patriots have been doing. I'll keep with the Patriots on this one. I don't like the bet, though. But Jared Goff also sucks, and Bill Belichick knows how to ruin bad quarterbacks. So Sean McVay can't pull this off. I'll go Patriots. Texans, Bears. We got Texans are -1.5 on the road. God, this is an awful game. I wish we didn't have to pick it. But Marco, who do you think wins this trash fest?
Houston, because Deshaun Watson. That's it.
Justin?
Houston, only because the Bears outlioned the Lions and they lost to the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime you do that, you know you're bad, and Deshaun Watson's going to kill you. So there you go.
All right. I think at this point, this is the time of the year when, we saw it a couple weeks ago when Matt Nagy tried to throw the defense under the bus against the Packers. There is a moment where even a defense that's playing really well, they have nothing left to play for. The offense is awful. At least the Texans, I watched them move the ball. I know they can do something well, even if they're not a good enough team to win. So with it being this close, I have no hesitations about taking the Texans over the Bears. So we'll see what happens. We'll go Cowboys, Bengals. Cowboys are -3.5 in Cincinnati. Marco, who do you got?
Cowboys. I'll go Cowboys. Don't ask why.
I wouldn't. Justin, who do you got?
Yeah, don't ask me why either. Cowboys. I don't know. This is so bad. This year's been so hilariously awful for the Cowboys. I'll take the Bengals. I have no good reason. Chiefs, Dolphins. We got Chiefs -7.5. Marco, who do you got?
I think Chiefs cover. I like what you said about the 2 touchdowns. I think I think it's gonna be that kind of a game.
Yes, Chiefs do cover. They do win, but it'll be a tough game. Miami's for real.
Yeah, I think right now I don't like taking the points, and I always mention it. Chiefs, I would love to have them win and prove me wrong. It's like I win either way if I take the other team when there's that many points. But I still think at this point, this is a Chiefs game that they really need to roll and prove. Like, this is what we can do against a good defense. I'm going to take the Chiefs on this one. Cardinals, Giants. Cardinals are -1.5. They're going on the road to New York. If you would ask me a couple weeks ago, I would have had no doubt. Now I have some questions. But Marco, who do you got in this game?
Wait, you kind of froze. I'm sorry. Who was the second team?
So Cardinals, Giants, and it's Cardinals -1.5 on the road.
Cardinals. Yeah, Cardinals.
All right, Justin?
G-men. Give me the Giants. That defense is playing really well. Cardinals, I don't know what they are right now.
How many games has Colt McCoy won 2 in a row in his NFL career? I will take the Cardinals.
Never.
And Vikings, Buccaneers. We got Buccaneers -6.5 at home. Do I even have to ask Marco? Who do you got?
Oh man,
Buccaneers.
Justin,
yeah.
I'll take the Buccaneers, but I don't know. Minnesota maybe could creep up on them. It could be a good game.
It won't. I feel like every week I get stuck in this situation where I want to play devil's advocate. I want to pick the other side, but every time it is this Vikings game where it's like, I'm not going to take the Buccaneers easy. Never put money on Kirk Cousins, even if it is just to cover the spread. Don't put money on it.
You don't like that? You don't like that?
I don't like him.
I don't like that at all.
Let me say this up. Kirk Cousins as a person, I don't know. Give or take. As a player, I don't want to see it. We got Panthers, Broncos. Panthers are -3 at home. Another game that at this point in the year, I don't really want to watch. But Marco, who do you think wins this?
Give me the Broncos. I'll take them in points.
Ooh, Justin?
Oh, give me Carolina, but I don't know why. This is a bad one, too. I just think it being a road game, Carolina's kind of interesting at home. Offense is still somewhat productive. They'll find a way. Broncos is too many problems.
Trying to figure out whether I'd rather have Teddy Bridgewater getting just run around in the backfield by a good pass rush, or I take Drew Lock against air. I'm going Teddy Bridgewater. I'll go with the Panthers on this one. Titans, Jaguars. Titans -7.5 on the road. I'll just tell you right now, I'm taking Titans. Never bet on the Jaguars. Marco?
Titans as well. Yeah.
Justin?
Why is it 7? It should be like 20. Give me Titans. Tighten up.
Colts, Raiders. We mentioned this earlier. Colts -3 and Raiders at this point. Yeah, prove it to me. I'll take the Colts. I never bet on Philip Rivers. Still can't pick the Raiders in this one. Marco, same?
Yeah, Colts. Yep.
Justin?
Colts, because the Raiders are in that tailspin like I've been talking about.
Seahawks, Jets. Seahawks are -13.5 at home. I'll take the Seahawks, even though I never eat the points. Another one. Break the rules because the Jets are that bad. I don't care if they nearly beat the Raiders because they're the Raiders. Marco, what do you got?
I'll take the Jets in points. They lose by a touchdown.
Oh man!
I'm glad to take your money this week, Marco. Justin, who do you got?
Dude, you're riding on thin ice. Thin ice.
That's what I do around here.
Sea chickens all the way. Big.
We got Packers, Lions. Packers are -7.5 on the road.
I'm glad you brought this one up. I'm going to take Lions in it. I think because it's always kind of pretty close between the Packers and the Lions.
Dude,
Justin,
two in a row. Heck, Aaron Rodgers all the way, man. Go Pack, go!
Hey, They're making it to the Super Bowl, but I don't see them winning by a tutty against the Lions.
Detroit, they've given up.
I need a lot of Aaron Jones points. I need this one to be a blowout with a lot of late carries, although that somehow is not what's happening, and it's killing me, even when the Packers win by a lot. Not nearly enough.
The Lions only won last week because the Bears are bad. Because they outlined the Lions.
I'm going to go Packers on this one. We got Saints, Eagles. Saints are -6.5 on the road. Marco, who do you got?
That's a pretty good line for that game. I'm going to take the Saints, though. I'll take him because Jalen Hurts is starting. I don't know what we're going to get out of him yet.
Justin?
I'll just take the Saints because they're a real team. They're an actual team. Eagles, I don't know what you are. You're nothing.
I'm forgetting what happened this last week. We had Packers, Eagles. I don't know what the line was, but that was a 14-point. They stole it the week before, just backdoor cover against the Seahawks.
Yep.
They've been keeping enough games close. And I think right now, how many games can the Saints just dominate everybody with Taysom Hill at quarterback? I'm still going to keep being a hater. I'm going to keep fighting. I don't care. I'm going Eagles on this one to cover. Falcons, Chargers. Falcons are -2.5. I'm not even going to waste time. I'll take the Falcons in this one. Marco, who do you got?
Yeah. Falcons.
Justin.
We know this story. We know how it's going to end for the Chargers. Give me the Dirty Birds.
Give me just like the Falcons got better when they went with Raheem Morris. Give me whoever you got in the cupboard instead of Anthony Lynn. I'll start betting the Chargers to cover some spreads. Until then, give me the Falcons.
Yeah, they're not bringing back Mari Schottenheimer from the dead.
He's alive, I think.
Is he? I didn't mean it that way. I'm just saying they're not bringing him back.
Washington 49ers. It's a pandemic. I don't know anymore who's alive. We got 49ers -3 at home. Marco, who do you got?
The other team. I like them a lot.
Did Falcon just say Chargers coach on the hot seat? Yes. The answer is yes. Was that a real question?
Heck yes. That's not even a question. Don't even ask that.
He was You're on fire, Falcon. You were nailing all this analysis, and now I can't tell if you're joking, but yeah, he should have
been
been
on the hot seat from the beginning of the year.
I don't even think a 45-0 loss to the Patriots is the worst thing that he's done as a head coach.
No.
That's how bad he's been. Yeah, I think he's on the hot seat.
Completely.
So we got Marco, did you say who you had for 49ers Washington?
Washington,
yep. And then Justin?
Yep. Give me the fighting Alex Smith, Ron Rivera's.
You can't keep adding parts to the name, man. Like, pick one. Come on.
Okay, Washington. Is that better?
Well, you could keep with I like the fighting Rivera's. That's fine. You know,
the fighting Smiths.
You just you can't give them like 18 names.
It's just they're both such a good story. I mean, Alex with his comeback and then Ron fighting cancer. I love it, man. It's a good feel story.
I think if I was going purely by football, and I don't know much about football, so this isn't like a informed decision. I'd go the 49ers just because, like, Washington, yeah, you're getting some wins, but when you actually size them up, other than the Steelers win, everything else is just bad teams that, you have the better defense and you're making it happen. I think with the way Kyle Shanahan gets his team ready to go, no matter what bad, they have nobody left and they're still winning games. They're covering spreads. I'd go 49ers, except I can't root against Alex Smith. So I'm going to go Washington as well. Steelers, Bills, another one we had mentioned earlier. Buffalo -2.5 at home. We seem to all have made a decision earlier, but I want to make sure that nobody's going to flop once they're right there. They see the numbers. They have to make the pick. Marco, who do you got in this game?
Steelers. Give me Steelers.
Justin?
Give me those Buffalo Bills circling the wagons.
What kind of Chiefs fan are you, Marco, that you want the Steelers to win and keep the number one pick? Buffalo, baby, winning that fantasy championship, Josh Allen. Let's go. We got Ravens-Browns Monday night, and Ravens are -2 despite having 2 less wins. How often do you see that? On the road, a much worse record right now, playing worse for the most part over the last few weeks. Everything says Browns, but the line doesn't, and that seems to be where Marco is at. Marco, are you sticking with that? Are you sticking with the Ravens to cover this spread and get themselves back on track?
Oh, yes. Baker Mayfield had 4 touchdowns in the second quarter this last week. He may have 4 interceptions in this game. Give me the Ravens.
Fancy. Justin?
That is possible. That's possible. But to quote Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. Give me the Browns, as I said earlier, but barely. It'll be a good game.
It will.
Browns, 2 touchdowns. And at this point, I'm just hoping it happens so that the next time Shane Jackson comes onto the podcast, I'm just going to let him weep for like 30 minutes, and then we'll talk about football.
Oh, is it? But he's a Ravens fan, isn't he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So it should be fun. Right now, like, we haven't had him on. I feel like he stopped. He keeps saying it's work. I think it's because the Ravens can't win a game. And so he proved me wrong this week. I thought he would have jumped on now that they finally got a win under their belt. But we'll see him at some point, and by then the Ravens will be eliminated from playoff contention. But that's all we have. That's all we have for the NFL Max Fast Action Bets. We did run long on the podcast. We will try to knock out a couple topics fast, but I do want to talk college basketball. Obviously, the big news this week, more so than any game being played, is Coach K making the comments that he believes that the game should not be played during the pandemic. He's worried about the health, the safety of his players, which, if it was coming from anybody but Coach K, I would be like, yeah, that's smart. That's probably how we should have handled sports during the pandemic, but we didn't. And the idea that Coach K is on this side, it just seems a little timely considering his Duke Blue Devils got smacked by Illinois. It seems like whenever he comes out and makes these comments, there's almost always something that just happened that it benefits him to start to take that side. And, whether it be pay players, this and that, Coach K seems to have one direction he's going, and it only changes. It just flips on a dime whenever something comes up that would benefit him. I would trust anybody else other than Coach K. I think that statement by itself, fine. Don't play during a pandemic. Don't wait till you lose to Illinois to bring it up. Marco, do you have any, am I off base in my questioning of the credibility and the truthfulness of Coach K?
No, I don't think you're off base at all. I like when theories come into play, because why would you wait till this game to make that statement when you've been playing games already before that? I get that Duke had their first game of the season postponed, but why didn't you say anything then? Why didn't you say anything before you even started playing basketball? So it's kind of odd that he chose a moment after losing to a tough Illini team. Just suck it up, man. Just suck it up. Thankfully, Terrell is gone, so the Duke fan of the household is not here to hear me say this, because Coach K to him is like, he hears that. He hears what Coach K's words, and he listens to it. As I'll put it like that.
All right, bring him on the pod.
No,
Tyrell has a reckoning coming.
Yes, he has a reckoning coming, because man, where was that statement? Last week, 2 weeks ago on Thanksgiving break. It doesn't look good.
It's also, he's not like describing like, all right, the numbers are starting to say this, we're having these games canceled. It literally just comes after a loss, and it's like the mental health and whatever, and it's like, those things were all true weeks ago. In terms of the risk, the numbers have been up. So when you're making that decision, while any time is a good time to make the right decision, that's not how he's framing it. It's like, this is how he's always thought, whatever, and then you should have brought it up months ago when the numbers were first ballooning. And I don't trust him at all to be. If there's somebody to make this idea to try to push it and be like, we should shut this down, Coach K is not the guy. I need being the messenger, leading that, being in front of the press. Find somebody else. Justin, I know you're probably on the same side, but you seem to have been on the opposite of, you think, maybe the statement isn't even true. What is your take on Coach K coming out saying they probably should not be playing sports right now based on what we're seeing from the pandemic?
So first of all, he's not the first well-known coach this year to be coming out with a stupid statement. Rick Pitino, who always seems to have his hand caught in the cookie jar for the wrong reasons, he came out and saying that college basketball should be pushed back to January or February. Shut up.
I feel like you're putting too much emphasis on the words rather than the person who is saying it. I don't know, I need a straight answer. Are you saying anybody who says we should push it back, no college basketball right now, it's a better decision? Or are you just saying these two guys shouldn't be the ones saying it? Because I think we know where Coach K, where it always seems like an opportunist, and then we know Rick Pitino, he is a tried and convicted opportunist.
Well, I guess my overall thing is I'm with Marco. I think Coach K was just saying it just because his team got beat at home by a good Illini team, and the fact that I know there's games being canceled, postponed right now, and there's gonna be more coming up, but just play through it. I mean, college football is doing a good job of trying to get through it all. Yeah. Do the same thing for college basketball. Don't try to, cancel a season or push it back. Just keep going. Just keep going. We know we got a vaccine coming. At least we're pretty sure of it. It's so.
Also, what does that tell the players when you're just out there saying, when you're like, did he talk to his athlete? Did he talk to his players before this? Because if you didn't, then it kind of just looks like you're saying that these kids are uncoachable too.
I mean, he didn't talk to his players. He yelled at them because they lost a basketball game.
And Marco, I agree with you, man. Why didn't Coach K come out with this? Right as soon as the first game was canceled. I mean, that's the right time to come out and say, well, I think we should cancel the season.
Not after
even have the conversation before. Try to talk about the reasoning. It's just weird to have this one moment that he's deciding, and it's not like his team had an infection that caused it. It's not like the other team. Like there wasn't one. The only thing that would be like, why was it today? The only thing you can look at is the result of the previous game. Yeah. I will say real quick, I can't even tell if Thaddeus is messing with me. We got no play, no pay. Well, we're talking about college sports. They're not paid. They can always opt out of playing. We've already seen players opt out that have basically lost their scholarship. That has happened at various colleges across the nation already. So the implications are, yeah, if you don't play, you're pretty much screwed. And since you're not really being paid, I mean, I guess if you're saying no play, no pay, the pay being the scholarship, are we taking away scholarships of like the band kids who don't get to go to games right now because it's not allowed? Are we taking away the scholarships of anybody else other than these athletes that might not want to put themselves into this situation? So Thaddeus, come on, man. I need you to be better than that. I know you're better than that.
Yeah.
Don't hit me with that. So college football next up, because that's another one. I'm not sure what the big game would be. I know that was it Oklahoma that had their game just canceled. I know all week there's been conversations about, is KU Texas going to happen? Not a game that matters to us KU fans, but I think, no pay for the coaches. Okay, Thaddeus, I like that better, but still, once again, I'd rather them not just have this like all or nothing thing for anybody. I think if it's safe to play, then play. I don't think it is safe necessarily. And particularly not having coaches come out in the middle of the season and be like, well, now I don't think it is because our season is not going the way we wanted it to. College football, a lot of games that are, whether they're canceled, they're postponed. You already had, was it the Big Ten that just said they were going to lift the restriction of playing 6 games, allow Ohio State to make it in, even with the Michigan game canceled. You just have all these adjustments, which if you're going to play, make the adjustments as they come up. Like I'm not going to say you can't change that rule. But at the same time, we're getting very close to the end. And at what point is this all just a bad idea? At what point are the numbers telling you that you needed to have already pulled the plug on this and they're just holding on for dear life? And, particularly with college football, I made the same argument when we started the year. I'll make it now. There are way too many players. There's way too many coaches. There's way too much of numbers across the country to successfully got through the season. And they, did a better job than I imagined in terms of keeping it on the rails until we got to the winter months. We got to a third surge. At this point, like, I don't know why you would keep only canceling a handful of games and not just be like, we probably just need to stop. Like, we've had enough games. If we're going to have this postseason, then have people kind of regroup, take time off. But why are you trying so hard to get in those final couple weeks when all it's going to do is possibly make this situation worse, have more teams that are going to have outbreaks? Just pull the plug for now. And even if you are going to say we need to play those bowl games in January, just stop the season right now instead of having so many cancellations down the stretch. Marco, what do you think in terms of how college football has handled this, particularly these last few weeks of kind of moving on the fly to keep things happening?
I didn't like that the Big Ten made that rule change, but I understand why they did, because you want representation in the playoffs, and it looks like Ohio State's going to be the only chance of a Big Ten team having that being the only Big Ten team on that stage. So I understand why they did it. I don't like it because they bailed. It's like bailing someone out. They bailed out one of their own. Right. It's fine. I just felt like there's other teams who deserved more chances because they played more. It seems that had played more games, and like the Coastal Carolina. I'm interested to see, who would have thought championship week starts next week for the power conferences. I'm very curious. I'll say this: the NCAA had a plan for the season. Probably wasn't. I don't think it was a really good plan, but they got through it somehow. And now we're getting to that point was, all right, was this season all worth it? Here we go. It's playoff time. So I'm curious to see how that'll unfold, because imagine if, whoever the 4 seed, say Ohio State and Alabama are supposed to be meeting each other. What happens if Ohio State has too many positive tests? What happens then? That throws off the whole playoff, and that throws off the whole reason why you had a season.
Yeah, I don't know what there is other than, like, you shouldn't put so much emphasis on the final weeks. Keep this going. You got through most of a season, and right now, if it was all about playing a college football playoff, playing those whatever bowl games do make it through, why wouldn't you just see kind of where this is heading, see how bad this is, and to be like, all right, we need to pump the brake. We need to get these players to stay home for a few weeks, try to make sure that they're ready to go, but also, social distancing, doing all these things. And if we can make sure everybody's healthy heading into a one-off, and it could be 2 weeks, it could be the conference championships and, college football playoff bowl, whichever of the top bowls. But like, man, right now, as you just keep holding on to these final couple weeks, you're just putting a lot of people in jeopardy. And I don't like it. Justin, what have your thoughts been on college football and, dealing with COVID and they made it further than I thought they would.
Yes, they have, and they've done a pretty good job of getting through this whole awkward, unusual situation with the whole coronavirus. But as far as Big Ten goes, I don't like this at all. I mean, they should have just been with the Big 12, the SEC, the ACC. They all should have all kicked off when everyone else did. They should have never just escaped everything and then try to, start up on their own time. Of course, the Pac-12 had to follow their lead and do the same thing. They all should have just started the season all together like normal. And you wouldn't have this problem. You wouldn't have to have this certain rule. Oh, you got to play this certain amount of games to make a conference championship game. And the fact they're doing it now, it's so deep into the season. Why? You should have just made the rule. You should have changed the rule at the very start of the season instead of saying, well, you got to play a certain amount of games, which was what, 6? Was it 6? They had to at least play 6 games. Mm-hmm. They should have just changed it if they really felt that way. Mm-hmm. But overall, they should have just kicked off when the Big 12 and in the ACC and the SEC did.
All right, so I'll split the difference here. I disagree. I don't think they should have kicked off when the other ones did because I don't think the other ones should have kicked off when they did. No, I think the way, particularly with how bad the planning was, like you put yourself in a tough situation. And while they've missed most of the fallout until these last few weeks, it still was a bad move to handle it the way they did. To keep having games where you're like, we'll start with the non-conference game, but wait, that one's being moved back 2 weeks. Or wait, we can move it forward. Okay, we're just going to do conference. I think it was much smarter for conferences to do what the Big Ten did and the Pac-12 did, which was, all right, we need to wait. We need to figure this out. We need to know where we're going. Where they made the mistake was they didn't figure out where they were going during the time they just waited, like we keep seeing from all these sports leagues, everybody but the NBA. They wait, and then they're like, I guess we have to throw it on the field. So what was the point of taking longer? So in that way, maybe they should have just started when everybody else did. If you were still going to not put
that was my point.
I still don't think they should have necessarily played. I think particularly now where you're looking, I think it would have made much more sense to have crafted a completely different schedule. I think whether that requires a multi-region bubble that would have worked out for teams, it's very hard to imagine with how many players are in college football and even just if you just had the Power 5. But I think you did need to completely alter how this season looked. The idea that you want to run it this way, and now we are getting to what normally would be the most important part of the year. These are the final games. This is how you get yourself into the championship. These matter the most. These are the games affected the most, and you should have gotten rid of non-conference. You should have gone with a reduced conference schedule. You should have found ways that you build in bye weeks, particularly if you are that concerned about pushing games in where instead of having them at the beginning of January, they're going to happen, in February. If you wanted to avoid that, you should have made a much shorter schedule that you spread out. So when you have postponements, you're able to push it to next week and not have it conflict with another team's game. Like you could have found ways to reimagine it and make it work. And instead they're like, we want to do whatever it takes to have a season, except we don't want to do anything. We just want to have the season. That's literally what we've heard from the NFL. That's what we saw from college football. And, NFL, they're just like, I don't know, you're playing on Tuesday and Broncos, no quarterback for you. Like they went like all out. College football, you don't have that same control at the top. So it's just been individual teams. Okay, we can't play this week. Oh, we have to push this. We have to push that. But it's all become a cluster at the end when that should be the most important part of your season. If you are playing for postseason, you should have already in August, like the rest of us losers without jobs, sitting there doing podcasts, like crafting whole schemes You're telling me these people who were paid to do it couldn't take the time to figure out something new, something different? No, they rolled with it, and whatever happens to them, that's their fault. They did not think ahead. They did not use their resources the way they should have. And I know it's hard. I know there's a lot of things to factor in, but there was also a lot of things they could have done that they just said, nope, not even taking the time to figure out how that would work. And I think that's on them. Anything else after I always finish podcasts with one long monologue and a Sprite?
No, that was great. That was great.
that was perfect, man. That was perfect.
So that's all we have. That's I probably pissed off half our fan base. But at some point, gonna have these conversations, and we'll see what happens. We'll see. I'm a hypocrite. I'm out at sporting events, and I'm covering things, and I'm on the other end of it saying, yeah, you should just cancel all the seasons. So whatever. I'm an awful person, but that's all we have for this episode of Too Many Points on the Tell Me More podcast. I will be back with other points that will make you angry next week. We'll see how the bets do. I might actually look at them and figure them out to see who wins, because last week I did bad. I noticed very quickly, and then I just didn't count. This week I might do good, and I'll bring it up. I'll let people know I'm winning if that happens to happen this week. But that's all we have for this one. We'll be back next week for more NFL action. NBA soon. At some point, it'll happen. So there should be a lot of fun stuff going on in the next few weeks. That's all we have for this episode. Later, folks. Button.